In the previous video, lesson 6, we inverted the votes and got them all oriented in the proper direction so that we can ultimately calculate our dependent variable. Now we're going to run a couple simple functions to create the numerator and the denominator of our dependent variable, and then we'll go ahead and do the calculation. This should be relatively painless now at this point. But before we go ahead, let's go ahead and save, and let's save the current version. So this should be version 4. Okay. Again, we're at this point where if we mess something up, we can always go back to the previous version, and that's helpful. Okay. All right. The first thing that we need to do is we need to create two variables. We need to create the numerator and the denominator, and to do that we're going to use a compute variable function. So I'm going to create the variable, it's going to be called count. And so this is just simply the number of votes the individual participated in. And so this is going to require a functional form that we'll need. And so the one that we're going to need is nValid. So if you go over here to the function group, select missing values and select nValue, it'll give us this argument. So nValue and then variable and then comma variable tells you kind of how to do it. Numeric returns a count of the arguments that have valid non-missing values. This function requires one or more arguments, which should be variable names in the active data set. So it's going to take all those variables and just simply count the number of active non-system missing cells are in that data matrix. And so let's do this real quick. Go to nValid. And then what I need to do is I need to put over all these variables. So I'm going to do a 534, 535, and put a comma in between every one of these. If I don't do the comma, it won't work. 536, 537. See, I missed that one. I needed to put a comma there. Comma 538, 539, 540. 541, 542, 543. Oops, didn't put one there. One page down here. It would be nice if you could just select the whole row and put them over, but for whatever reason it just will not let you do that. $549. Okay, so I've got my series of votes, and again all this is going to do is it's going to take each member of the House and it's going to simply go through this sequence of variables and count the number of valid vote cast entries in it. Okay, so variable 534, 536, 537, 538, 539, 540, 541, 542, 543, 544, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. And there's commas in between every one of those. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And out here in the far side of my data set, I'll see a new variable, and it'll be count 16. So a lot of the people have 16s on these. Some people don't. Most people do have 16s. That's good for us. It'll give us more variation. Okay, 3s, only 3 for that one person, etc. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to compute a variable, and instead of nValid, we're going to do something else. We're going to do one that's first thing I need to do is change the target variable name. I'm going to say call this one support. And so this will be number of 1 positions after we've inverted everything. And remember, 1 is support for the end product. And so it's going to be 1. I'm going to use those same variables, but let me go find the one I'm looking for. This one I'm not looking for statistical. I'm actually looking for missing values anymore. I'm looking for statistical approaches. And so if I go in here, The one that I want is sum. All right, so sum returns the sum of its arguments that have valid non-missing values. This function requires 2 more arguments, right? So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to put in sum. All right. All right, so I'm going to do the exact same thing and see how many positions were supportive of the end product. I'm going to run that. And look here, 1, 0, 15, 13, 12. See how that works? 15, 16, 14. So we had a lot of we had some kind of people who supported everything, and we had other people who kind of defected, and others who just were nowhere near, and some people in the middle. Final thing that we need to do is calculate our dependent variable. That's really simple. We're going to call this. I don't know what we'll call it. We'll call it, I'm going to call it vote score. That's what I'll call it. And simply here I'm going to include the support. Use some. Do support divided by count times 100, and that should be enough to create my percentage support score out here. So we got that. Okay, so we have created a count that tells us the number of positions that individual people have participated in this series of votes. We'll counted the number of supporting positions, and then we just created a simple support score, 6.25, none, 81.25, etc. And so we have a whole range. We have a lot of hundreds, and then a lot of people didn't. So we'll kind of see what this looks like. We got 435 of them, and we'll be using that as our support score. I was going to do a quick graph of it, a histogram, to show you kind of what it looked like. I was interested too, but for whatever reason, my SPSS isn't playing well with OS X Yosemite for some reason, something to do with Java. So I think when I get to the videos on plotting stuff, I'm going to have to run that out of the virtual lab, which will probably crash every 5 minutes. But for right now, we have completed lesson 7. We have created the numerator, our denominator, or our numerator, our denominator, and our dependent variable that we'll be using in the analysis. And now we'll be moving on to working with some independent variables. Okay, good. Go up here and shut this one down, and we're good.